The first question will go to Senator Casey. So let us begin with the economy. Senator Casey, you claim corporations caused inflation by engaging in greedflation and shrinkflation, but prices are high everywhere. When you buy gas, when you go to put in a bid for a townhouse, when you go to buy bananas. How likely is it that companies across a variety of industries all conspire to make things more expensive for everyone? And what other factors may have been involved in causing inflation?
All right, I need to give kudos here. This was actually a really good question. What is the chance that every single company across the economy conspired together to raise prices at the same time? Because we know that profits don't only come from raising prices. Sometimes, in order to increase profits, companies lower prices to drive up the quantity demanded. So why was it that every single industry in a wide variety of sectors decided to raise prices at the same time, if we're to believe in Bob Casey's greedflation? Let's see what Casey responds to this with.
Well, Matt, thank you. And I want to thank all those who are here in 6ABC for hosting this debate. Look, across the country, especially in the last several years, prices have been way up. The cost of food, the cost of household items have skyrocketed. You have corporations in the two.
So prices have been way up. Nobody's denying that, Bob. Nobody is denying that. We all recognize that prices are up. The question is, if we're to believe that it's greedflation, then why did they all go up at the same time? Why did every corporation in the country suddenly decide to get greedy at the same time? I thought greed was a universal condition of man. Why did every company decide to get greedy all at the same time, Bob?
2-year period from the middle of 2020 to the middle of 2022, corporate profits going up 75%, 5 times the rate of inflation. So
yes, those who have access to money first are going to get profits. They're going to make big bucks. That's what happens when you print new money, and some industries are at the center. But he didn't explain yet. Maybe he will. Why is it that every single sector sees prices go up?
Corporations were engaged in price gouging, taking advantage of the pandemic and the inflationary pressures. And I think
price gouging, taking advantage of the pandemic and inflationary pressures. Well, okay, maybe I can see, but normally price gouging is associated with disasters. And yes, I would call the 2020 handling of the pandemic by Democratic governors and President Donald Trump a disaster. But that disaster ended a couple years ago. So we're beyond that disaster planning. So what disaster is he talking about now that we're getting price gouging? The Biden-Harris economy? I guess so. I guess that is the disaster that he's talking about right now. So I'm not in agreement that price gouging is an issue that needs to be fixed by the government. In fact, price gouging is a way that the economy addresses things. And but if we're talking about price gouging, you have to identify the disaster. And normally disasters are localized. So we have a disaster from 2 hurricanes, and they were localized in the American South. So it makes sense for local governments to address that, not for a national standard on all of that. The national standard would not make sense in price gouging.
We should do something about it. We should point it out like I have, issued reports on it. Secondly,
I love, he's a senator. He's like, here's what we're going to do about it. We'll point it out and issue reports. Oh, wow. That sounds like it's going to make a huge difference, right? You better watch out. We're going to point it out and we'll issue reports. My goodness. Does anybody take this guy seriously?
Should pass price gouging legislation to hold companies accountable. And thirdly, we should roll back those big corporate tax breaks they got a couple years ago. The difference in this race is I want to go after price gouging. My opponent won't do it. He doesn't think we should do anything about price gouging. In fact, he excuses big corporations ripping off families.
All right. Well, we already addressed it's not price gouging, but I think it's interesting here. Do you think that Bob Casey believes his own rhetoric? I do not. I do not think that Bob Casey believes his own rhetoric, and he gave a hint to why that he doesn't believe his own rhetoric right here. So according to Bob Casey, like, you do not want Bob Casey teaching your kids economics. According to Bob Casey, to increase profits, all companies have to do is raise prices. So he is going to raise their taxes. So if we believe Bob Casey's framework, if companies want to increase or maintain their profits, maintain their take home after those tax increases, what are they going to do? They're going to raise their prices. How in the world is raising taxes on corporations going to result in me paying lower prices at the grocery store? According to Bob Casey's own framework, where all the companies have to do to increase profits is raise prices. It seems like to me, like, if you raise their taxes, that's going to be an incentive for them to raise prices, especially if their competitors' taxes are going up too. Now, if one industry or one sector of the economy has their taxes go up and other sectors do not, then they have to consider that maybe their competitors' prices didn't go, or taxes didn't go up, and they might be incentivized to keep prices lower. But if everybody's taxes are going up, then everybody's going to raise prices. That's probably what's going to happen. So Bob Casey's answer here is the exact opposite of what you want to do if you have any understanding of economics whatsoever.